I'd like to call this specially called meeting for July 26, 2011 to order. And as always, we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have Reverend Commissioner Holly Jones for the invocation tonight.
If you will, bow with me. Loving God, we come before you tonight with heavy hearts for our community's loss of a young man, Donnie Crotty. We ask you to comfort his grieving family and the scores of friends he left behind. Let his life help us to remember what a gift life is, no matter how long, and that we are each other's gifts from you. We also send our prayers to the individuals who have lost possessions in recent fires, yet are grateful for the safety of all involved, and thank you for keeping our firefighters safe as they serve us all. We are blessed in this county to have such dedicated public safety professionals. Finally, we bring before you tonight the people's business and ask you to give us clear thinking and discernment in this work we are about to do. All these spoken prayers and dozens of ones we keep silent in our hearts, we bring before you and place before you for guidance and direction. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. In accordance with our Code of Ethics adopted by our board, it's the duty of every board member to avoid both the actual and apparent potential appearances of conflict. Does any board member know of any known or potential conflict with any matter coming before the board today?
No, sir.
If not, we will proceed. This is a specially called meeting by the chairman. There'll be one order of business we're going to talk about tonight, and that's the economic incentive agreement and the potential lease and sale of the property and the resolutions concerning that, the Linamar property and the economic incentive we're going to give them if it's approved. We're going to have a public comment, and we will take any public comment on this issue alone. We will not have general public comment on at-large subjects unrelated to this specific public hearing that we have scheduled. There are no consent agenda items. There will be no reports. I think we will have a closed session. Is that right after?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, I would ask the board to flip-flop the two public hearings. Our notice of special meeting indicated that the public hearing to approve the lease and sale would be first. So if we could do that be first, make sure that everyone's happy with the order in accordance with your call of the special meeting.
Okay, but this is all about the Volvo property and the
Absolutely.
Linamar incentive
Absolutely.
that has been partially discussed in public, and there may be some new things. We'll have announcements after that, and then we will go into our closed session. Do we expect any action?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just go ahead and make give my whole spiel here. We do have 5 items pursuant to the General Statute 143, 318, 11A, 3 attorney-client matters, and 2 matters under subsection 4, 1 of an economic development and 1 possible property acquisition. And we do anticipate that the board may have instruction for the county attorney and the county manager following our closed session.
Okay, so we may or may not come back into session afterwards. All right. Well, let's get started. We're going to start then with the lease and sale of property, and we'll recognize Dr. Wanda Green and possibly Mr. Frew to talk about the lease and sale portion of this agenda today.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. I am going to cover a lot of both topics in my initial presentation. But as I thought back over the last 4 or 5 months, it's been a really busy time. And if you were going to tell a story, you'd almost say, once upon a time, there was a 400,000 square foot facility that was vacant at Lake Julian. No jobs, no activity. It was like a ghost town. Then if you fast forward today, there's that campus is ready to employ 400 people, to be infused with a $125 million investment in renovations and equipment, and it's just a great thing for our community. Those renovations are expected to begin immediately, and Linamar is projecting that they will be operational by the first quarter of 12. We are projecting they'll be operational before then, just based on the activity that's taken place with them as we've gone along. So tonight we're here to discuss how we went from a closed Volvo plant to a vibrant Linamar operation. I think we need to start by talking about who is Linamar. Well, they're a publicly traded, Canadian-based company that's headquartered in Guelph, Ontario. It took me 2 months to learn to say that, and it's spelled so strange. In 1996, Frank Hassenfratz started Linamar. He started it as a one-man machine shop in his basement. And the majority, even though they're publicly traded, the majority of the stock of Linamar is still held by the Hassenfratz family. Today, Linamar employs 14,500 people. Last year, they billed $2.2 billion. They have 39 manufacturing facilities. They have 5 research and development centers. They have 14 sales centers, and these are spread across 11 countries. They're a very large organization. Linamar's revenue goal is to build $10 billion in the year 2020. And right now, they are on target to reach that goal through both acquisition and growth. This facility is not moving anything. This is all new business that they're bringing to Buncombe County. If you look at the company, they have a really good history of smart growth. They have an employee-focused culture. Employees know the expectation. They know the measures for everything that they do, and they're very clear that their performance is graded on that, and management's compensated on that. And they have a great history of community engagement. They have demonstrated, and this is one of the things I really like about them, they've really demonstrated that when they select a community, they grow in place, they expand. And Guelph is a good example of that. There's 23 plants in that area, and a tremendous number of their employees are in that general area. Now, our work with Linamar's Industrial, Commercial, and Energy Division, ICE, and we've called it Project ICE the whole time, and it really did stand for exactly what the code name was. That began early this calendar year. And if you look at job recruitment and retention, recruitment is a cutthroat business. Competition is fierce. So unfortunately, often when you're going through this process, you have to hold a lot of information very close, and you have to work quietly to bring these jobs and this investment into reality. When Linamar first decided they wanted a facility in the southeast, they focused on Winston-Salem because their biggest customer for this new product is going to be in Winston-Salem. They're building, Caterpillar's building a facility there now. But they soon expanded their search to include 4 sites in North Carolina and 4 sites in South Carolina, and they visited all of those sites. Then they narrowed their search to Winston, Asheville, and Greenville, South Carolina. After a little more work, they narrowed it further to just be Asheville and Greenville. And all of us know that South Carolina, period, is very aggressive in their pursuit of jobs, so we needed to get Linamar. We were up against some really tough competition. We worked with Linamar just about daily, to be honest with you, and you all know that in March, April, May, and June, often our closed sessions, this was the economic development project that we were talking about because things changed on a daily basis. We wanted to be flexible. We wanted them to be in Buncombe County, and we wanted to do whatever it took to get them here and grow these jobs for our citizens. After all of the work in early May, the ICE team, which is headed by Nick Adams, who's the president of the ICE division of Linamar, and Kevin Hodgins, who's their business development manager, took their proposal to the Linamar board. Frankly, we didn't know what their proposal was going to be. We knew what we hoped it would be, but we knew that they were taking a proposal. That meeting lasted 2 days. Those were 2 really long days for us trying to figure out what was going to happen. Well, shortly after that meeting, Mr. Adams and Mr. Hodgins scheduled a meeting here in Buncombe County. And we were in the conference room at the old Volvo facility. Commissioner Bailey and I were there along with a host of other folks. And I would say there was a lot of anxiety in the room. We didn't know what they were going to tell us, and I personally admit to being really anxious to hear what Mr. Adams was going to say. He's a very soft-spoken man and very deliberate in his choice of words. And as he started his update, the first thing he told us was that the Linamar board had approved their capital investment, $60 million for next year. And we were really happy about that because we thought, okay, this is in the right direction. And then next he told us that they weren't taking any of their location options off the table. Well, that was a little deflating because we weren't quite sure what that meant. So we sat there a minute, and then we heard what I considered the magic words of the moment when Mr. Adams said, we're now focusing all of our efforts on the Asheville facility. So I don't think hearts beat for about 5 seconds or maybe longer. But we were really thrilled about that. We knew there was still plenty of work that had to be done, but for the first time, I think we really felt like it was ours to lose, and we weren't going to lose it, no matter what. We were not going to lose this. We wanted to bring these jobs and this investment home. After the discussion that took place, we also knew at this point that speed to market was going to be a critical criteria of Linamar. And we knew that having the facilities ready to occupy at the Volvo plant was going to be our biggest way to deliver that critical component to them. They needed to be ready to go to market very quickly. Caterpillar was moving along. So we had to do several things to make this a reality. The first thing we did, and I appreciate you doing this, was we secured the facility. It's 65.2 acres, 405,000 square foot of building space. The building was on the market for $9.4 million, and they had a recent appraisal for $9.4 million. Well, we had a long discussion about that, and so I called the senior vice president in Pennsylvania, the senior vice president of Volvo in Pennsylvania, and said, look, you know, you're leaving our community. Would you ask Volvo to donate this building to us? And it was a long conversation, to say the least. But he said, okay, I'll take it to the Volvo board in Sweden, and they were meeting, in Europe, and they were meeting the next week. Well, they did call us back the day after the meeting, and they said, well, you got a lot of moxie, but no, we're not going to donate it to you. We'll sell it to you for $7.5 million. So after a few more conversations and some appropriate phone calls, we were able to secure the building for $7 million. Now, there are some tax advantages that Volvo can take advantage of if they want to for the bargain sale, if they want to do that. In our documents today, we're asking you to allow us to sell that facility to Linamar early in the calendar year for $8 million. That's an internal mechanism for Linamar. Each of their divisions stands alone, so the investment that they make at the corporate level goes under their balance sheet, but they have to deal with their profit at each of their production levels. So if Judy will put up the PowerPoint, we'll talk about what we're going to get and what we're asking you to give. Okay, our agreement with Linamar requires them to add 400 jobs. Only 3 of these people are coming from out of our region. 2 are coming from Ontario, and they have just recently hired the general manager, who is in town today. Mr. Bailey met with him earlier today. So the general manager is on board, and things are moving along there. The rest of these will be local hires as we go forward. Now, while the wages will vary, the average wage will be $39.7 plus benefits. When you compare that to the average wage in Buncombe today of $33.8, this is a good wage for the company to provide. In addition to the 400 jobs, Linamar has to make a $125 million investment that increases our property tax base. This will be made in both renovations to the facility and equipment they'll use for their production. And in return for these jobs and this investment, we will provide a net incentive of $9 million, which will be paid over, it'll be paid over 4 fiscal years. And the incentive will be provided by both the city and the county, $6.8 million from us and $2.2 million from the city. Before we make any payment, though, we are requiring them to provide us copies of documentation to show that they have actually made the capital investment, because we're paying this incentive a little different way than we paid before. The first payment is due to be in September of 2011, 2 months from now. But we do know that there's $60 million. Those products are being ordered now. We will enter an MOU. We're the primary contact with Linamar. The $9 million will flow through our books, and we are going to sign an MOU with the City of Asheville to pay us the $2.2 million. They have performance.
That's Memorandum of Understanding.
I'm
MOU.
sorry, yes it is. It will lay out when and how they'll make those payments. Now, we are required by general statute to recover over a 10-year period any incentive that we provide to a company. And what you consider in the payback on those are taxes that come to counties, whether that's property tax or sales tax, or there's an assortment of others that are much smaller than those two. But if you look at what we're expecting here, we look at just our property tax and know that the incentive will be paid back more than the incentive will be paid back in the 10-year period from property tax alone. So as you can see from the schedule, we're in compliance with the general statutes. So Judy, you can take the PowerPoint back down. these are citizens' dollars, so we always want to make sure that we're protecting those dollars. In the event that the committed jobs are not delivered or the investment's not delivered, there are really strong clawback provisions in the agreement. Clawback means we can recover our money. It specifies how much they pay back per million and how much they pay back per job that they don't produce. Now, I'm very confident that they're going to overproduce on this just based on their history. But we do protect the citizens' investment in the documents that you'll be asked to approve tonight. In the economic development world, this project has moved warp speed. It usually takes 18, 24 months. This one, in 5 or 6 months, went from it's an idea to it's a reality. So I want to thank a few people before we start the public hearing. First, I want to thank you. It took a lot of political courage to go buy a building when there's a global financial crisis going on and not be able to tell the public why you were doing that. So I applaud you for taking that risk and stepping out there, and now the deliverable makes it such an understandable decision. I do want to thank John Creighton, and Greg Israel, and Michael Frew for their endless hours. I mean, they've invested a lot of time getting the environmental assessment and the building assessments done and the documentation completed, and I guarantee you these three guys know every square inch of earth out there, every square inch of property, where the fence posts are, what the survey's like, and believe me, when you put 5 lawyers in a room, you scrub every word in a document many, many, many times. So the impact on the community is huge. 400 jobs impacts us right away. It impacts the businesses in the community. It impacts our retail. It impacts our health care. It just has a rippling effect that's great for all of us. And in the future, that becomes even greater because families and additional families will be impacted going forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the incentive or the package. And Michael has some information to share about how we need to proceed with the documents in the public hearing.
I know, Dr. Green, there was a job fair quite soon after the announcement was made. Do you have any idea how that went?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you asking. The announcement was made on June 30th. The job fair was July 5th and 6th. We had over 700 applicants. The Linamar has been in town every week since then doing interviews, and they are in town doing interviews this week too. So it's going very well, and good turnout. We had promised them they'd have good turnout, and we were glad to see it.
Great, great.
In the proposed agreement, and you've mentioned this, there is a little bit front-loaded, $3 million by September, but then they have to meet the guidelines for each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other payment schedules.
They have to meet the guidelines for all of the payments.
And it's cumulative. Each time they've got to meet the ones before they get money.
Mm-hmm.
And we spread that out to the point that we'll know where we're at by September of 2 years from now.
And that was the
No,
nice
3
thing
years.
about spreading it out over 4 fiscal years, so that we can see that they're making progress. The first year's investment's $60 million, and then there is a schedule as they ramp up to the $125 million.
And when they purchase, I think you use the word net investment's going to be 6.8 by the county.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they pay $1 million more, that's mostly for tax reasons than what we paid.
It's for their balance sheet and income statement purposes, the way that money is going to flow. And we've laid that out pretty clearly, I think, in the documents, so it'll stand the test of time and review.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there's not, I just would like to thank one more person, and he's sitting right next to me, and that's Commissioner Bailey. As chairman of the EDC, and God knows how many other committees he chairs and is on, his fingerprints are all over this, and this wouldn't have happened without Ray Bailey. So we're very indebted to you, Ray, for taking all the time you spent.
I appreciate that, but of course, Wanda was our chief negotiator, and I think we all know and appreciate the great work that she did. One of the things that we didn't say, and I think that the people in the county need to realize that in the economic development world, if you get 400 jobs and where they're fully ramped up to 400 jobs, and you use a multiplier for that, and indirect and induced and everything else, there'll probably be over 1,000 people that will be employed because of the ramp up to 400 jobs by Linamar, and that's something like $42 million annually in payroll.
It is.
which is a real positive for this community. As Dr. Green said, and I'm fully convinced that one of the reasons they want that property is because of the additional acreage, and the way they like to cluster. I think that in real numbers, there'll be 800 to 1,000 people employed there, and not in not too distant future. So, this is probably the largest manufacturing announcement that we've had to make, or we've been able to make in Buncombe County since the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's been a long time coming. Long time coming.
Yes, it's been a really good thing. And I do have to say this about Commissioner Bailey. His next question the next day after June 30th was, and what are we going to announce next month? So he's very consistent.
We're working on one.
Well, and Dr. Green, one other thing, in a conversation with some of the representatives at Linamar, I think they actually have a bet with Caterpillar folks who's going to open first, and they are real serious about getting this up and going. So your comments about the speed that this is was an important part, and the fact to tie it up so that we didn't take a chance that someone else might. There were other suitors for this property. Our timing had to be when it was, or else we might have lost the whole deal.
The new general manager, and I'm not sure they're ready to announce the person's name, but it's a person that has years of experience in manufacturing, and based on everything that we've seen with the people who work for Linamar, this person will fit right in with that group. And he's in town and been doing some things today. He's ready to move forward.
He sure is.
And the ripple effect. If you just drive down Hendersonville Road and you'll see on the restaurants, welcome Linamar.
Oh,
I mean, it's just great. I mean, we're going to have, all the folks employed there, but then they've got to go somewhere and have lunch and get their gas and all the kinds of things that people have to do. So it's just wonderful. And I think it's good if you would explain to people how that name originated, the Linamar.
Actually, it really is an interesting story. The chairman of the board is just a really nice man. He was down and met with us, and the name came from the first couple of letters in his daughter's names and his wife's name. So it's Linda, Nancy, and I believe it's Margaret, so it's Linamar.
Yeah.
And a long time ago. So very, very fine gentleman. Very family-oriented. The company is very family-oriented.
Great.
And all the people that I've ever worked with in manufacturing, this fella knew more about production and how to get the maximum out of employees and space of anybody that I've ever had conversation with.
He was fascinating. I'm kind of a numbers person, so he was fascinating. He could tell you in every country where they had an operation exactly how many minutes out of the 60 minutes were value added to their product.
Exactly.
And we are going to be a good fit for them here. Our cultures are going to blend really well.
That's great.
I think the amazing thing to me was at the chamber when we announced this, there were 800-900 people in that room, and when he was introduced, he got about a 5 to 10 minute standing ovation. They wouldn't shut up. He tried to get them to be quiet. They just kept clapping. I think they're thrilled that this is coming. Yeah.
That's great.
I can't remember if Commissioner Bailey, you told me this quote, or Wanda, you did, and I hope actually I'm remembering, I didn't dream this up, so you can tell me if I dreamed it up, but somewhere along those Once Upon a Time storylines, when the courting was in session, one of you told me that the folks said that, we're coming here because we're getting the red carpet treatment and not the red tape.
Yes, you did hear that.
And I just think that says a whole lot about being open for business in Buncombe County. I think it says a lot. I know there's, the community is excited in terms of welcoming families for education, even though we're not going to bring a whole lot in. But I'm sure the quality of life kind of played into it. And I think we have to, give kudos to the city of Asheville, too, in terms of that.
They stepped up.
Stepping up. That's a big gift for them as well. So
it is. I think it's the largest for either of us.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for giving them the red carpet. And not the red tape.
Yes, we're glad to do that. We're going to continue that.
Okay, any other comments or questions before our public hearing?
Mr. Frew has some.
Mr. Frew?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have two public hearings, as you've indicated earlier, and I think I saw everybody nod that we can flip and do the lease and sale first. So the first matter is a resolution authorizing the county to lease and sell facility to company and to enter into lease agreement and purchase and sale agreement. Dr. Green went through all the particulars of the, and these are what are in your resolution findings after the 400 full-time jobs, the average salary per year, their investment, and the it's requisite to this process that this board find that in response to that, this company would not come here but for our red carpet treatment and but for this inducement. In the original, the resolution indicates much lower numbers than Dr. Green indicated. I just want to point out that I indicated only based on what they're going to agree to on the state one fund paperwork and only for county dollars. And so obviously that's a worst case scenario numbers is what were indicated in there. So Dr. Green's numbers are much more accurate. And just want to point out that also the motivation to hit the state numbers will kick it off during the first 3 or 4 years. And so while our numbers look like a large ramp up, they're not. And so then once they get to that point, they'll be committed and in here. And I think that's exactly where we want them to be. In terms of the purchase and sale agreement, the lease agreement is just call it a triple net lease. They're going to be in the property. They're going to pay all expenses, all insurance. Of course, during the lease term, we'll have to have insurance on the premises in case something catastrophic happens. At the end of that lease term, they will purchase it on or before the middle of January 2012 for the $8 million. And if you have any questions on the particulars of the lease or the purchase, I'll be glad to try to answer that.
And it's a cash payment, is that right?
Yes.
So it's not financed. They're paying $8 million in cash.
They are. I mean, what they do as part of the $125 million investment is, of course, their business. They may finance a great deal of that, or their customers. They're going to require that their customers put many of their dies on the site. But the key for the economic development incentive, as Wanda was saying, is when they make their investment in the community, it has to be taxable in Buncombe County. So that'd be taxable investment in the county, whether it's their property or the customer's property. Either way, it's taxable investment into Buncombe County.
All right. Any other questions or comments about this portion of this public hearing?
So following, excuse me, sir. So following any public comment, I would just ask the board to approve this resolution authorizing the lease and sale of the property based on the resolution that's been available to the commission.
All right, sir. Then we'll start a public comment at 5:29. If anyone wishes to speak on the lease and sale resolution, we'd love to hear from you. You have 3 minutes if you'd give your name and where you live.
I'm David King, Candler. I just have a question. It's my understanding that the money to purchase the plant with will be necessary to borrow that money. Question I have is, once it's paid back, will those funds be used to pay that loan off, or will they go into the general fund? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to answer now? Or you want to? Why don't we steal all the questions? Thank you, Mr. Key, and then we will have some. If there's some answers we can give on that. Any other public comment on the lease and sale resolution? Yes, ma'am. In the orange.
There's
In the orange first, ma'am. You're next. Sir. You're next.
Yes, my name is Linda Southard. I'm from Candler, North Carolina, and I guess my comment is one of the commissioners mentioned how they were given the red carpet treatment instead of red tape. Wouldn't it be nice if we did that for everybody and let the free market decide who should be here and who shouldn't be here, instead of all of the regulations that might put people off and prevent them from coming here? Just my observation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Southern. Ms. Landis, if you had.
I am Reverend Lisa Landis, and I am very happy to hear that Linamar is a family company. I grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I know what one man can do because his motto was business is a matter of human service, and what he did was quite remarkable. Every time you eat a candy bar, you can just think of what one man can do, and that was during the Depression. Now, my question is one of the questions is the 39,752 average wage. Would that be an average of a $20,000 a year job for the average worker in comparison to the management positions of 60 to 80,000? I'm trying to be really nice here. Because of it being Linamar and because they are family oriented, and I just hope that they really look over their contracts, because I know that my job and my business was destroyed by this commissioners. So I hope that their contracts are looked at quite thoroughly and that they are not thrown to the curb the way URTV was. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landis. Any other public comment? If not, we will close public comment at 5:33. And I think there were two questions. Mr. Key had a question about the pay, the loan, and the payment, and then
Money
Ms.
to buy the building loan, whether it's a loan or what.
Yeah, and then Ms. Landis asked about how the averages were made.
The $7 million we basically borrowed from ourselves. We are not going out and getting a loan on that. So when the $8 million comes back, it's just such a short turnaround period that we're not going out to borrow this money. So cash out will come right back in the door in about 4 or 5 months, which is what we need to happen. The other thing this is the average wage. 39.7 is the average wage. I don't think, I've seen the document and we didn't see any $20,000 a year jobs. Certainly there are going to be some engineers that are going to top 6 figures. So this is the average wage, but it's very solid. And as far as the contracts goes, we've worked with 5 attorneys for many, many weeks now. There's not a word that's not taken care of by every involved party, I promise you.
And we do have some precedent, Dr. Green, when incentive goal benchmarks are not met. There have been times in our history that we have not given payments. I don't think we have that problem here, but we do have precedent for that, and I think Mr. Creighton mentioned a couple at another meeting I was at.
We have strong clawback provisions, and often we don't pay until the investments are made. This is a little bit structured a little bit different, but there's a very strong clawback provision in these documents.
I just have this mental picture every time you say
I know,
callback.
I've got to use a different word. We'll recover those funds.
Yeah,
Okay,
clawback
thank you.
works.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Green or any other comments on the lease and sale resolution?
Move approval.
Second.
Been a motion by Commissioner
Close the
Bailey.
public hearing yet?
Yes. There's been a motion by Commissioner Bailey, a second by Commissioner Peters.
Yeah. Thought you did.
I didn't hear you. Not paying attention, sorry.
No, that's, any other discussion among the commissions? If not, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution for authorizing the county to lease and sell facility to Linamar, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries 5-0. Now we have a second public hearing on the economic incentive agreement that we will ask Mr. Frew to tell us about.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This resolution authorizes the county to pay economic development incentives and to sign the economic development agreement with Linamar. Again, I mean, this has been vetted. 6, 7, I think really more like 8 lawyers for the last 3 months as they've been working through it. The package, as already explained, is based on the 400 full-time positions and the $125 million. And the timeline, again, would be start at the $3 million from the county through its budget in September of this year and end after 4 fiscal years in September 2014 with $2.2 million being paid back to the county by the city of Asheville. The callback provisions can best be seen and explained in the agenda packet. On Exhibit A, it shows an example as to exactly how that worked, and I'm sure Mark and others will have questions about that later, but that's how that works. The strong incentive provisions mean that if they do not hit those marks and maintain those marks, then they'd have to pay back a portion of what's paid. Again, I think the key to this is that if you read that and you think, well, the portion of that going to hit it, would they have to pay it back, or are we only getting a portion? You have to remember that, again, they are motivated at the offset by the 4 or 5 year term of the NC1 fund to get all this investment in the ground in the quickest time possible. And once you make a $125 million investment in 5 years, it's highly unlikely that you're going to pull up shop and leave. But of course, this is a business, and they know what happened in 2008. So everyone has some business risk in this, but I think it's the risk is very minimal given the agreement and the NC1 fund incentives on top of what's happening locally. So after the public hearing, I'd ask the board to approve this resolution as it's been made available to this commission. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them.
I just noticed that in one of the attachments, Exhibit B, you have a DOT letter. They're going to fire up the light there. And that's
Yeah, on Long Shoals Road, there was a light there at one point activated by the heavy trucks leaving the old Volvo facility. And once this ramps up, they're going to need more than one entrance exit to the site. And we've worked closely with the Department of Transportation. They've agreed to do this based on some numbers being made available by Linamar as to how quickly they'll start to ramp up, and they'll make sure it happens. And they will expedite that. Usually they wait for certain traffic patterns before the DOT will agree to put in a light, but they've agreed that given the magnitude of this situation, once they know that the investment's in and the plant's starting to roll, they'll put up the lights.
okay. And also, that triggers Governor Perdue did make some calls and was personally involved in some of the discussions as this was
She was
coming
deeply
together.
involved, along with Secretary Christo and that group from Department of Commerce during this last 6 months or so.
I think she made how many calls to them directly? Several, I know
Several,
of.
several that
we
I know
talked
of,
about.
yes,
So
sir.
we thank our governor for her participation, and the state and the secretary that is acquaintances with Commissioner Jones, close friend through many circles. So any other questions or comments about the economic incentive agreement? If not, we will start our public hearing on the economic incentive agreement at 5:38. Anybody wish to speak on this public hearing? Mr. Rice? If you'll give your name and where you live. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jerry Rice from Candler. I kind of see both of them together, so I've already spoke on the purchase and all at the previous meeting on the incentive as well. But I'm handing you a paper on the construction equipment maker Volvo to double NC plant employment, and that was June 8, 2006. So when we're talking about Linamar here, I would like for you to refer to this page here of the Associated Press and how it reads in respect to the incentives that was given. It was similar, the same as we're doing now. But if you look at $30 million, at that point, we're doing $125 million with this one. So the incentive seems to be different in the amount of money of investment. And my concern is is it, or am I looking at it wrong? I don't know. It's a question to me that you are giving the same incentives on a larger amount of money to a $30 million on 2008 for the numbers of jobs that was being presented at that time. It was 264 jobs to be added and increase it up to 220. Now, the other concern I have is how did this play out with Volvo in retrospect as far as money is concerned, and how does that money equal out as far as how much Yuns have got left, how much they had to pay back, or did they get it all? And I'd like to know the amount of money, how that money kind of looks into what we're doing now to kind of compare. Did we get $5 million back? $5.5 million back, and they didn't get the full incentive that was put out. So I think that's my question. But I do appreciate the jobs, and the 39,000. I don't think it's been clearly answered. I think it's been generalized, and I asked this specifically before. It would be nice to have a breakdown in the job market on who's getting the amount of money, not the management folded into the workers. This 39,000 is not the workers. This is top management, big salaries folded in. So I'm a specific man. I want it numbers, and I think we're appreciative of the job, our community. If you clapped at 800 people standing ovation, let me tell you, there's thousands in the community clapping for the jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And we will try to answer those at the end of public hearing. Any other public comment today? Yes, sir, Mr. Key.
David King, Candler. I'd like to say something about, to address Mr. Rice's question regarding salaries. I spent 20-some years working in manufacturing facilities in this area, and I think I can pretty well say that most of that money will be in the hands of the working people. Typically in manufacturing, you don't have that large of a staff on site. Most of the upper management typically is at the headquarters. Excuse me. So I think that's probably a fairly rare representation, a good representation based on my personal experiences working in manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Key. Any other comments for the public hearing on the economic incentive agreement? Reverend Landis?
Reverend Lisa Landis, GLO, LADY, in your search engine will find me. Now, if I am to understand this correctly, there are let me see, credits, incentives that would equal approximately $20 million, if I'm correct. And now that's with the county and the state money. And in Transylvania County, there was an economic development for low to moderate income people. And that grant went to Gaia Herbs, which isn't really a low to moderate income company, but it was for the workers. So my question is, wouldn't it be a better idea to invest in the people of this county? You know, what could we create if we were to spend $20 million to create small businesses and not just assume that business is for the elite? That's the impression that I have received from several of the economic advisors in this area. So again, my question is, why could we not spend $20 million to create small business jobs for the low to moderate income people? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Landis. Any other public? I will try to answer that one also. Now let's get one shot there. Okay, any other public comment? To make sure any other public comment? Okay. Yes, I will declare. Well, let's go ahead and we'll keep it open. Go ahead and I'll let you hear your comments. Go ahead and talk.
John's going to answer the question about the Volvo incentive, but I do want to say two things. One is the breakdown of the salaries are in the North Carolina papers. There are trade secrets in that. We're not allowed to release those. I will see if we can have that schedule and make that one public, but we cannot release those entire documents. The other thing is we have general statutes that we have to follow. We can't just make $20 million available to invest in without a significant return or some guarantee of return. On this, we are getting a return of that of the incentive, and that's just what the North Carolina general statutes require that we do with public money. John?
Mr. Creighton?
I think in reference to the Volvo incentive was that we never paid anything out on that incentive, so there was nothing to claw back or get back or anything else. At that particular time, we did have a callback agreement for the Volvo incentive, but like I say, the economy fell apart and we never made a payment. As far as we're trying to relate that incentive to the Linamar incentive, I think you got to weigh them as they come in. Obviously, this is 3 years later since we did this incentive. The environment's changed. Also, I think it's exactly what Commissioner Bailey said. When we looked at this company, there was a great potential for a lot more than 400 jobs, and I think that's why that we came to the table with a lot stronger incentive package than we did in Volvo back 3 years ago. So that's pretty much, I think, an explanation for that.
All righty. Any other public comment? If not, I'll declare our public comment period closed at 5:46. Is there any comment from the commissioners?
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Been a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Vice Chair Stanley. Is there any further discussion and/or questions about this resolution adopting the Economic Incentive Agreement? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The Economic Incentive Agreement resolution is adopted. We will not have general public comment today. The announcements prior to our adjourning for the closed session will be, the next meeting of our board will be next week, August 2, 2011, beginning at 4:30. And commissioner meetings can be seen on BCTV Charter Cable Channel 2 on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m., Wednesday at 3 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m., or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. It's my understanding there will be a need for a closed session for reasons you stated earlier.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion by Commissioner Bailey to go into closed session, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will be in closed session. Thank you.